everybody, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of the MonkeyBoy Presents the DC Comics Superhero Collection by Eaglemoss. And today I'm happy to bring you issue number 56, Mr. Miracle. And this is a character that some people may know, but I think most don't. He's sort of an obscure one, which is one of the reasons I really enjoy this line of figures. And he has been featured on some of the animated series. He was featured on episodes of Superman the Animated Series, as well as the Justice League Animated Series. I'm sure he's had appearances in other shows that I'm totally unaware of, like Brave and the Bold and that sort of thing. So he has been out there. He's also been a member of the Justice League International, and he's basically an escape artist. He's from the planet New Genesis. He's nearly immortal, but of course we'll cover all of that in the Characters magazine, which is what we'll go over first. It'll tell us pretty much everything we need to know about Mr. Scott-Free here, and then we'll take a look at the figure itself, covering the good, the bad, and the ugly. It really is a fantastic figure, one of the most unique in the line, and again, one of the reasons I love this line so much, because the obscure ones are some of my most favorite, honestly. Please, sit back, relax, and enjoy issue number 56 in the DC Comics Superhero Collection by Eaglemoss, Mr. Miracle. First up, the character section. And it's here that we meet Scott-Free, who is actually a prince from an alien world known as New Genesis, where his father ruled over the people there, who are known as New Gods. And Scott finds that he's not like the other kids in this orphanage as he grows up. He continues to have a free will of his own, despite all the brainwashing that they attempt to give him. He also begins to receive visits from an astral projection of another new god known as Metron, who informs him of his royal heritage from the planet New Genesis. When Scott emerged from the other side of the boom tube, he found himself on 19th century Earth, so he decided to hide out for a couple of hundred years until he found a traveling circus sideshow and a man named Thaddeus Brown, who called himself Mr. Miracle. Scott traveled with Thaddeus and company for a while, becoming an escape artist in his own right, until he unfortunately lost Thaddeus when a couple of criminals who had been blackmailing him came for money that he didn't have. Scott-Free became the new Mr. Miracle, carrying on Thaddeus' legacy, but combined some of his new god technology with the suit, allowing him to escape from even more crazy contraptions. The next couple pages talk about life for Scott after he became Mr. Miracle. We find him re-teaming with fellow new god Big Barda, who managed to travel to Earth via boom tube, and the two began a romantic relationship. And together, the group became one of the most famous escape acts in the world. We also learn that Scott and Barda managed to set aside some time to get married by Scott's father, Highfather, the ruler of the New Gods. Mr. Miracle also went on to join the United Nations-sponsored Justice League International. The last couple pages bring us up to speed with the character, at least at the time of this publication. We learn that New Gods can be killed when Highfather, the ruler of New Genesis, is assassinated, and Scott, his heir, takes the throne. Not very long after this, Scott discovers that he holds a piece of the anti-life equation inside of himself and can kill with a word. After Scott Free's death, we find his protege Shiloh Norman picking up the mantle of Mr. Miracle, and he sets about finding heroes to prepare for an impending war that Scott had warned him was coming. Next, we look at a couple of Mr. Miracle's classic stories. First up, Jack Kirby's Fourth World Omnibus. And this epic story is by legendary writer-artist Jack Kirby, who of course is the creator of the Fourth World and its entire cast of characters, Orion, the evil Darkseid, and of course the heroic Mr. Miracle. And this features Mr. Miracle's origins. We learn about how he grew up in the orphanages on Apokolips, how he eventually escaped and made it to the planet Earth, where he became the hero known as Mr. Miracle. It's a really great story, and if you want to know all about the Fourth World, you should pick up this omnibus. We also have 7 Soldiers of Victory. And this wonderfully illustrated story introduces us to the new Mr. Miracle, Shiloh Norman, who is going around trying to put together a team of heroes to defend against an oncoming threat that former Mr. Miracle, Scott Free, had warned him against. It's an extremely intricately written storyline that should be read more than once and shows off how capable Shiloh is and how deserving he is of the title Mr. Miracle. Mr. Miracle's Friends and Foes features his father, Highfather, his wife Barda, and his friend and manager, Oberon. And finally, the original thinking section continues the DC timeline with Part 47, New Worlds for Old. Around the same time in North America, a Native American hero known as Super Chief is taken through time to help do battle in the crisis on Infinite Earths. And finally, we learn in the mid-20th century in Prague of the first appearance of a supernatural hero who would come to be known simply as Ragman. Here we have Mr. Miracle, Scott Free, and a fantastic figure. Yet another one that is unexpectedly really nice. A very unknown, obscure character, and these tend to be the ones that I find the most fantastic in this series. This is the reason I like the Eaglemoss figures so much, because they're bringing everyone, not just the A-list or the B-list or even the C-list. They're going deep into the catalog with some of these figures, like Hitman, like Booster Gold and Blue Beetle on some level, I think, and like Mr. Miracle here, a new god. And this figure is great. It's the Scott Free version. It's the Jack Kirby artwork definitely here on display. Not so much the Shiloh version. I did love the Shiloh version of the character, that costume anyway, and I'm sort of sad not to see it, but I really dig the classic Mr. Miracle. As you can see, it's extremely colorful, red, green, and yellow, really, really fantastic. Love the cape, how huge it is, the big collar on it. Love his face, the way he's looking upwards, and the way he's breaking the chains on his wrists there is great. You know, it shows off the fact that he's this escape artist. In a sense, it shows off his powers. I mean, all the way down to his feet, which are also awesome. They're shackled together, which I think are great. But you can see nice, clean lines, really not a whole lot of bleeding, great shading and highlighting, and just overall, I think an impressive figure. Even if you don't know it, or know him, it's a really awesome addition to the collection, and we'll talk a little bit more about him in just a moment. Mr. Miracle stands atop the classic DC logo, and the underside of the base features his name and serial number. And so you get some size and scale. Here he is next to fellow new god Darkseid, and a nice group shot with the other members of the Justice League International they've produced so far. Mr. Miracle is yet another one of the obscure characters that I was really looking forward to. I dig the New Gods, I love Jack Kirby's work, and I'm so happy with this figure because it is clearly inspired by the original Jack Kirby design, which I absolutely love. It's colorful, it's fresh, and everything about this one is pretty unique. We will start, of course, with the good. Very little to complain about on this guy, honestly. Very impressive figure, in my opinion. It's the ones that are the most unassuming that I end up liking the most. Great color scheme. Love the bright and vibrant green, yellow, and red on him. They went with the classic Jack Kirby design, which I think is fantastic. Love the cape. Love how big it is, all the folds and wrinkles. Like how it's hanging out over the base a little bit, just to give it sort of a more animated feel, I guess. I love the shackles around the feet, too. They're nicely done, perfectly detailed, clean paint, nice clean edges, and the dull metallic on them is really nicely done, too. They look like they're made of steel or something, which is perfect. Love the belt on him. It's great details there, clean edges again. Love how it looks as though he's flexing to break his handcuffs apart, and those handcuffs are another fantastic touch. They look good. I love the chain links and how it looks as though he's breaking them mid-motion. This is another figure where they manage to capture his ability to escape in a sculpted form. It's really nice when they manage to get that character's powers or abilities across. Really love that, and this one does that very well. Also, the head sculpt on him is fantastic. Another open mouth, which is always cool. It looks like he's shouting to break free. I like how the back of the head, you can see the cape is folding over a little bit, wrinkling, as his neck is craning backwards so he can look up into the sky. And I love that high collar too. Love the high collared capes. But again, the facial sculpt and detail and paint on it is really nice. Love the pupilless eyes. Love the shouting. Really, overall, great details. Lots of good things on this figure. The bad. Really, I can't find anything on this guy that I consider bad. There's a little bit of minor bleeding here and there, but that just tells me it's hand-painted. I kind of like that. You could argue that he should have pupils in the eyes. Jack Kirby most of the time drew him with pupils, but there are some where he didn't, so that's up to you, I suppose. But for me, there's really not a whole lot of bad on this guy at all. The ugly. The weakest spots on this guy are going to be those chain links coming off of the handcuffs that he's breaking. Those are going to be the weakest points. You don't want to drop him or pick him up by those. They could bend, they could break. Otherwise, he's a very solid figure. Overall, I really like this figure a lot. I think it's fantastic. I love the New Gods. I know most people probably have no idea who the New Gods are, except for Darkseid probably, but I love them. I think he's colorful. I think he's unique, especially the pose. It's wonderful when they have these dynamic poses that get across the character's powers or abilities, and you get that here. And it's also nice to have another Justice League International character to add to the mix. So for me, I recommend him. I think he's really nice. Again, there's not a whole lot bad on this guy. And I hope you have enjoyed this review. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please stay tuned for a quick teaser trailer of the next figure in the line, issue number 57. It's another member of the Justice League. It's another lady, and it's one of the sexiest and probably most powerful members of the team. So stay tuned for that quick teaser. As always, I am your host, the Monkey Boy, aka J to his friends. Thanks again for watching.